Okay, so thank you again, everybody, for your flexibility. And today's lecture will be recorded because I was not able to join you today in person. So last class, we talked a little bit about ratios and rates. The first thing that I am going to do is we had left off with, we had started talking about rates. So I am going to talk about rates a little bit more. And we had defined a ratio, a rate so we said that a rate is a comparison of two quantities and can be written as a fraction. And these quantities don't necessarily have the same units. So we have miles per hour, beats per minute, things like that. Okay, so those are rates. And we had talked a little bit also the last thing in section 3.1 in as far as ratios and rates was exchange rates. And exchange rates we had identified as basically what is the conversion rate. So if you have $1, what can that dollar afford you in different currencies? So if it's Mexican pesos, or if it's the pound or the euro and things like that. Some of the things that we had talked about what we had explored were the following currencies. We had said that the Mexican peso, actually let me do the table a little bit better here. So as far as the table, just notice this, that I'm writing exchange rates per US dollar. Okay, I always say let the actual wording guide you, which means that per right here means division. So what you would have is something that looks like this, that the rate is per $1 US, right? So you would have some currency right here. So it could be the euro or it could be the pound, but it's per $1 US. So we're talking about a unit rate right here. Because you may find that, for example, that it says that the Canadian dollar is 0.97, but you have to be careful. Is it 0.97 per $1, or is it that one Canadian dollar only buys you 0.9 of a US dollar, right? So you have to be very careful when you see that. After a little bit of research, we had come up with these currencies. We had come up with the Mexican peso, with the British pound, with the euro, with the Japanese yen, I think it just doesn't understand my handwriting. The Canadian dollar, the Ghana, oh my goodness, I forget what, but I forget what the currency was, what else, and then the Korean won, and the Honduran lempira. Okay. Based on our little research that we did in class, we had that a Mexican peso is, it's $205 Mexican pesos per $1 US. So you would write something like this, per US dollar. Okay, and that means per $1 US. So $1 US will buy you 205 Mexican pesos. A British pound, we have the 0.8, right? This is the symbol for the British pound, per $1 US, which means that $1 US will only buy you 0.8 of a British pound, because the British pound is more expensive than the US dollar. As far as the euro, we have that not 1 euro, but $1, right? This is a unit rate, so $1 would buy you 0.96 of a euro. For the Japanese yen, I don't know what the symbol is for the Japanese yen, but we have the 156.25 Japanese yen is equivalent to $1. And for the Canadian dollar, we have that that actually 1.44 Canadian dollars is equivalent or to $1. For the Ghana, I can't remember what I wrote, but this one is 15.22 per $1. And for the Korean won, we had that it's $144 I think it was 36 per $1. And for the Honduran lempiras, we have that it's 25.6 lempiras per $1. And this is important because you may want to do different calculations to be able to make conversions. So let's say that you are going on vacation, right? And if you say something like, okay, you want to be able to purchase a package, right? So let's say you purchase a package for 3,125 British pounds to travel to 3,125 to travel to England. And you want to know, so when you purchase that, this is going to show up on your credit card or on your debit card transaction as a different amount because our currency is not the British pound, is the US dollar. So the first thing that I want you to think about is, would you expect this number to be higher or would you expect this number to be lower? Hopefully, you said that I would expect that the conversion rate to US dollars, it would be higher, right? Because the British pound is more expensive than the US dollar. And how do you actually do that conversion rate? Okay, to do that conversion rate, you always start with what you have, okay, and you let the units guide you. So you say, I spent 3,125 British pounds, and I want to be able to convert this to US dollars. And this right here is what is called the conversion rate. In the conversion rate, okay, or the conversion rate, sometimes people call it the conversion factor, what you want to do is you want to be able to put the unit, so in this case, right, the unit of what you want to cancel, what you want to get rid of, in the denominator. So the units would cancel out something like this, okay? Now, and then the unit that you want, you would put it right here. That's the unit that you want. So in this case, the US dollar, and we wouldn't cancel that. So what do we know about the British pound, right? The British pound, we know that $1. So this is what we want, $1, $1, okay, is equivalent to 0.808 British pounds. Remember what I said about canceling out the units? Then what you'll notice is that, look, the pounds cancel out, and I am left with US dollars, and that's what I want. So all I have to do now is put this in my calculator, and this is equivalent to 3. When I multiply fractions, we multiply across. So this is equivalent to 3,125 times 1, which is 3,125, over 0.8. If we put this in our calculator, hopefully you have your calculator handy next to you. This is equivalent to $3,906.25. So what you would expect to see the transaction on your credit card in US dollars, it's not 3,125, but more likely $3,906.25 in US dollars. Okay? Now let's do one other example. Let's do this other example, and let's say, how about, it says, suppose let's say Honduran company places an order for a material that costs 20,000 US dollars. I want to know what is the cost in Honduran lempiras. So what is that cost? How do we find that out? We start with what we know. Remember, we started that we have $20,000. Now here, this is our conversion factor, okay? What do we want to get rid of? We want to get rid of the US dollars. So I would put the US dollars right here, and the lempiras I would have here in the numerator, okay? So that's what we're going to do. So based on a conversion factor, we know that $1 US, I'm going to put in the denominator $1 US equals to 25.6 lempiras. Okay, so when I do that math, I have to multiply 20,000 times 25.6, and that gives me 512,000 lempiras. So the person, right, in the account, like so all the way in Honduras, will have to deposit 512,000 lempiras. So we here in the United States could receive $20,000. Okay. So again, when it comes to rates, I would say let the units guide you. When the word says per, usually means division. You have to be very aware of what goes in the numerator and what goes in the denominator to help you with the calculations that you have to do. This is all for this section. This concludes section 3.1. You will have in the next video, I will be talking about section 3.2.